Okay, guys, welcome to our first ever OC Roundtable on Coaches Connected. This evening I'm joined by, I'll let them introduce yourselves. Coaches, please, introduce yourselves.
I'm Neil Holtschke. So I've coached sort of since 2012, started as a player coach on the offensive line, and became offensive coordinator at the end of, partway through the 2015 season for the Shropshire Evolution, and then sort of became head coach for the 2019, and unfortunately the season never happened in 2020. So sort of 5 years in OC and head coach role.
I'm Dave Gibbs. I'm the offensive coordinator for the University of Portsmouth Destroyers. I've been coaching since about 2013 for the Portsmouth Dreadnoughts and the Portsmouth Destroyers. And yeah, last year was my first year in uni ball, and we went 8-0 in the regular season, but had a first round playoff exit, unfortunately. So bigger things to come, hopefully, in future.
I'm Luke Carlton. I'm the offensive coordinator for the Manchester Titans. I've previously been involved with the Lancashire Wolverines and UClan Rams, and was fortunate enough to be a part of the GB setup as a GA last year. Basically anything based in the Northwest is kind of what I'm familiar with and where I've crafted my trade, I guess.
Awesome. What I like about this little panel here is got a nice little bit of mixture of experience, which I wanted to get. Obviously, Murray would have made us an extra level on top because he's been coached for a long time. Hopefully, he joins in a little bit. If he doesn't, then. First question of the day really is: how did you become an offensive coordinator? And was it like promotion? Did you have to interview, or were in some cases the last man standing and the only man for the job? We'll step forward, feel free and take it.
Yeah, I'll step in on this one. So I started off as I played football when I was younger, but then my knees decided that I wasn't going to play football anymore. So playing career kind of got scrapped kind of quickly. I think it was in my third year as a student at UClan. I was the quarterbacks coach, then went back home. And then the head coach at the time at UClan, Sam Bloomfield, asked if I was interested in coming up to be an offensive coordinator. I'd never really done anything sort of coaching-wise before, but I think it was one of those situations where at university you kind of get what you can and you're grabbing your mates and it's like, oh yeah, he might be able to do the job. And I think from there it kind of constantly snowballed. So I think there's only been 2 seasons where I've not been a coordinator, mostly because, like you say, it's one of those ones where you're kind of the only one available and they kind of need someone to do the job. So I've been doing it for, Lord, how many seasons now? 5, 6 maybe seasons being an offensive coordinator. I love having the control of things, love being able to make the decisions, but also like being able to dabble in different aspects of the offense. So maybe one day you want to work with the O-line on something specific, or the receivers need to work on this, and just being able to pinpoint areas where you need to improve and just being able to go, right, we're doing this today, we're getting better at this today. And then again, having the control in the field of being able to call plays, being able to see things that you've practiced come off in games, and yeah, it's I think it's one of the best positions you can be. No offense to the head coaches out there, I think being a coordinator is the best position you can be.
I'd agree with you on that one. When I'm sort of a bit like you. So when I stopped playing, it was sort of 2012, and then gradually went into sort of coaching. So started as a player coach on the O-line because that's kind of where I played. That's quite a tough gig in itself, but I think that's something for another video, player coach. But yeah, we're sort of then fully retired, was full-time O-line coach, and then sort of Brit Bowl being Brit Bowl partway through the 2015 season. I kind of found myself in that OC role and thinking, oh, Christ, what do I do now? Because I've only ever really done anything with the offensive line. So to all of a sudden have to deal with the running backs, receivers and quarterbacks was a bit... I mean, I'd agree with what Luke's just said. Sort of, I think offensive coordinator probably is the best position on the field. I liked sort of being involved with each of the different player groups, and I kind of liked having a little bit of the control about what the offense was going to do, and actually stepping up to the head coach level. It wasn't as much fun. I found that it was more of like an overseeing role, just because of my style. Was I kind of delegated out like authority over the offense and defense and specials. So actually, I think OC probably is the best because defense is boring in it. So I think OC is the best place on the field.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, I mean, I'm much for being an OC to a positional coach. That's for sure. But I wasn't officially offensive coordinator, but I first called a game when I was 19. I don't know if you guys know about Portsmouth Dreadnoughts in the past, but their coaches all got suspended at the same time, and I came home from uni and I was literally handed the offensive playbook because I'd blown my knee out. And I was literally handed a play sheet and told, okay, we're going up against Solent today. You're calling the offense. And I was given sort of like 2 days notice that this was happening because of when everything came down. So it was kind of like okay, right, cool. Well, I don't know what any of this means because I've not been around, I've been at uni. And then after that, ended up staying as offensive coordinator the year after. Ended up stepping down because I realised that I didn't know anything and I wanted a chance to actually learn from someone who did. And fortunately, Mick Hogan came on board to the Dreadnoughts for 2 seasons, and I had an opportunity to learn from him. And a lot of my style offensively now obviously comes from that, certainly. But yeah, like, you know, it's similar to Luke and Neil. I mean, the things I love about, you know, being an offensive coordinator, you have that little bit more responsibility, but you're not quite in that almost like admin role of like being head coach. Like, you can still have a bit of fun with it. You don't have to be like 100% like business serious all the time. Like, you can be yourself a little bit because you're not the guy everyone answers to. But at the same time, you know, when it comes to the offense, the buck still does stop with you. So there's always going to be that bit of pressure that, you know, if the team isn't scoring points at the end of the day, it's on your shoulders of what you've done from the start of pre-season to where you are at that moment to get some points on the board.
Yeah, I mean, the only downside of being an offensive coordinator, you're going to be the first one to get fired. You all know that, right? If it all goes wrong, the OC is the first one to know. It's never the defensive coordinator, or the offensive coordinator. If you're not being fired yet, look forward to it. It's to come. Anyway, great segue from Coach Dave. The next question is, how did you settle on your offensive style and your offensive type of offense? And when you start putting your playbook together and produce a reasonable amount of quantity to think, you know what, I've got something here.
I think for the offensive style, I've always tried to, and I know it's a cliche answer and it's probably not the stylistic answer, but I've always tried to base it on what my quarterback can do. I think more than anything, like, obviously you can have a great O-line, you can have a great running back, but you can still run different schemes if you've got a great one or a bad one. But if you've got a good quarterback, you can do almost anything. If you don't have a good quarterback, there's very limited stuff in what you can do. I'd say probably like the signature style that we have, and I know you've just done a video on it yourself. Our sort of signature style is rollout. So we cut the field in half and we get our quarterback out the pocket, give him a clear view, give him something to see, give him something to do. For the most part of the stuff, in fact, no, everything I've ever done has been from shotgun. I feel like there's more creativity you can bring involved with the quarterback in shotgun, whether it be in RPOs or being read option or just getting him away from the line so he can feel as though he's got a little bit more space from there. I think our signature style as well is that we put our receivers quite far wide. So we tell our X and Z receiver to line up 5 yards from the sideline, and then our 2 slot receivers line up 75% of the difference between the outside receiver and the nearest offensive tackle. The idea that we can sort of split the field into 3 parts. We can put it as a field side, there's a box, and there's a boundary side, and we can split it up and we can clearly distinguish, okay, how many people are here, how many people are here, how many people are here, and we can quite easily exploit space. It puts anyone who wants to play as sort of an outside linebacker in a bit of a pinch where, okay, you can either cover the run or you can cover the pass, but you can't really cover both. I think we've had a fair amount of success spreading teams out like that, because I think a lot of people approach defending spread as, we'll put these 2 outside guys here and they can defend the run and they can defend the pass, and we want to try and take that away from them as much as possible. A big proponent of play action. So we don't have any regular, we have 2 pass protection sets, of 3 technically, We have rollout, we have play action, and we have 5-man protection if our running back's out or if we're in empty. I think for us, even if it's just leaving the running back in pass protection, we can just show a quick fake and maybe one of the linebackers will bite on it, maybe one of the safeties. Someone might have eyes in the backfield and might think, oh, actually, is that a run? And for the quarterback, he doesn't necessarily have to show the play action. He doesn't have to ride through the mesh point. Someone can just look in the backfield and be like, oh, running back's going towards the quarterback. That's a run play. I think all the things we've settled on has been through trial and error. And I think that's probably the most important thing you can do as an offensive coordinator is come into it with an idea that, okay, if you draw something up, it's not destined to work. Just because it works on paper doesn't mean it works on the field. And I'm sure we've probably all got about 4 notebooks full of pages of plays that all really work. But when they got to the field, someone didn't quite understand what they were supposed to do, or the reads didn't progress the way they should do. So all of our stuff is based on what our players are comfortable with. So when it comes to the install process, there's certain concepts that we have that I know work and they know work, and I can put it up on a piece of paper and I can show it and be like, this is where he'll be open. This is where he'll be open. If he's not here, you come down to here and it'll be open. And they can clearly see it. So we install our bread and butter stuff to begin with. Then we progress on to a little 2-week period, which I like to think of as just, okay, I'm just going to throw stuff at the wall. And if it sticks, it sticks. We've got great new players. If not, oh, well, we've still got our bread and butter stuff down. But yeah, I think it all starts with catering to what your quarterback is comfortable with. If you have a good one, if you don't have a good one. And if you don't have a good one, have you got an athlete who you can put the ball in the hands of 20, 30 times a game and tell him, go find a gap and run?
Yeah, I think for me, when I'd agree with all that, and when I sort of started it, because it was partway through a season, it was kind of like, well, I'm not going to overhaul the playbook. When we're already into game 3, I think our first game we lost something like 50-0, probably lucky to score 0. So it was onwards and upwards from there. But so that first sort of season was, well, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel, partway through the season. So it was kind of just get by with what we had. Not that there was anything fundamentally wrong with it, but when I did then get the chance to design a playbook myself, sort of the biggest question was, well, what sort of offense do I want to run? But as Luke sort of touched on, I think quarterback is so important, especially in the British game. And also, I think you need to give some consideration to what level you're playing at. So when I was OC, we the 2015 season we went 0-10, got relegated out of Div 1. The club was in kind of like a transition period, so a lot of the experienced players had sort of left. We were relegated to Div 2, a lot of rookies, so a lot of guys who didn't know a lot about football. So I think I just really needed to bear that in mind in terms of the complexity and the number of plays that were in the playbook, and just kind of went with something that was very simple, which certainly served its purpose in Div 2. And then when we were promoted out of Div 2 a couple of seasons later, you can kind of add a level of complexity onto it. You've got guys then who know, they know how to execute a zone, they know how to execute the simple plays properly, and you can build more complexity on top of that. So I think it's really just sort of bearing in mind probably the level you play at, and sort of what your personnel is like. Are they experienced football players? Because if you've got a lot of rookies or new guys and experienced guys, I think a smaller playbook and investing your time on the fundamentals is then going to pay off for you sort of 2 or 3 years' time. If you've got a more experienced program, you can sort of add a bit more to the playbook. So I'd just say that just bearing in mind what your personnel is would be the biggest factor for me.
So I mean, for me personally, I find it's typically actually been about leveraging the strengths or weaknesses of my offensive line as opposed to the quarterback. So a lot of the things I do are mainly predicated around what is the easiest block I can create for this guy. I think we've all probably had experience of the fact that offensive linemen in this country are generally the guys who are not that athletic. Some of them are really good athletes, but quite often, especially in uni ball or when you're in Division 2, you're going to get like a guy who's turned up and he's watched like one game of the NFL or played a little bit of Madden, and he's just a bit overweight and he can't really move or anything like that. So how can I put that guy in a position to succeed? that's primarily what really dictates what I do, you know, in term, because not only does it impact obviously in the running game, whether we're getting good angles, you know, I'm mainly a gap scheme guy, just because I find that, you know, we can win with angles even if we don't have the best athletes, but also in terms of pass protection, making sure that they understand their role in the protection, making sure that we have the ability to adjust that somewhat so that the quarterback can feel that he's you know, he is protected within the scheme, regardless of who's in front of him. So yeah, for me, it's all about making sure the offensive line is able to do their job and is in the best position to succeed. Because as far as I'm concerned, they make the rest of the thing go.
I mean, yeah, if you've never dealt with Div 2 level junior lineman, you ain't lived, right? That's a different level. That's beast right there. Anyway, welcome to the party, Coach. If you'd like to introduce yourself, Coach Murray.
Yeah, sure. I'm Coach. I'm Murray Dumas. Been around since '82. Coaching since 1990. Coached with several teams. Was a head coach. Been an assistant head coach. Been with the London Olympians since 1998. I've had a couple of brief spells from them. I'm back with them teaching the coaches at the moment.
The first question was, Coach, is what made you settle on your offensive style, or who made you settle on your offensive style, and how long did it take you to put your playbook together and deliver it in a knowledgeable format?
But I think the style bit. What say again, Coach? What was that part of the question?
How or what made you settle on your offensive style? What were you influenced by? What did you want to do, or were you under somebody's tutelage, kind of thing?
Yeah. Okay. And the other part?
It was. And how long did it take you to put your own playbook together and feel comfortable with it to deliver it?
Well, my first playbook, I was a defensive coordinator before I was an offensive coordinator. And my first playbooks were based around the coaches that I'd been around. And I was really, really fortunate. I had a defensive coach from Holtschke University, worked with me for a couple of years. I was his linebacker, and then became his assistant, and then learned a system under him, and that taught me how to put systems together. So when I eventually became a head coach, and in fact was the only coach on the team, I was able to develop my own style. But I built it around things that I'd been around. So when I was playing, I played as an outside linebacker, but I also played running back. I played tight end. I'd done a little bit at the quarterback. I played offensive line. So I built it around the things that I knew back then. Very simple, very, very basic. And at the time, it was a wing tee style. And we fitted into that a wishbone. So we were very, very simple. But everything was about simplicity. That kind of developed as I studied. And I studied and found, I made friends in the States through my old coach. And we talked football, and I learned all the different things that I found necessary for me at the time. And the gap style offense was really resonated with me, and the style that I liked. And eventually when I went to the Olympians, there was already a gap style offense there, and that was handed over to me and was kind of, right, that's what you're running. So the first year I was OC there, I already had an offense that was handed over. And then I was very fortunate to meet and have as my mentor a coach called Al Black. He wrote the book on run and shoot football. Literally wrote the book on run and shoot football. So I spent a couple of years under his tutelage, and then we've been talking ever since. So it's about 18 years that we've been back and forth to each other, and I love that offense. I really, really do love the run and shoot. In saying that, I've run wishbone in run and shoot. So we've done all sorts of things around that. But the big thing, and listening to you guys and what you're saying, and how you're trying to base your offenses and develop your offenses, and it is about personnel. Personnel are a big factor, a huge factor. If you haven't got the offensive line, you don't block. If you haven't got a quarterback that can throw the ball, you're running the ball. And if you haven't got the right running backs, well, then you're really in trouble. So it is all about the personnel. But with myself at the moment, I also have started to look at how you develop each your system and each play and each technique. And I've started over the last few years to really break things down so that we have very simple direction for the players, so that we can put in a play that really looks complicated, that really isn't complicated. But each group has a clear definition of what they're going to do and why they're going to do it. And that really, that for me has been the big thing around my whole ethos, my philosophy.
Next question. I'll jump a little bit ahead. The question that I always find interesting at our level, anyway, is you're now seeing in the UK is how do you build your staff, or what do you do to go around and build the staff? It's very much different compared to, like, you're not going to go ahead and just grab a wide receiver coach from somewhere like they do in the States. There's a certain way of doing things, in my opinion, in this country that we're not all be able to do, or we fail to do. We try and get the best of this when we should be looking close to home in a lot of ways. So my question to you, coach, is how do you build your staff, or in which way do you develop your staff, or build your staff, as I say?
Building a staff's incredibly difficult, especially trying to find people that, I don't know about you guys, but trying to find people who you can trust to execute things and teach things the way that you want it to be done. Because I'm sure guys have probably got their own opinions, like, oh, this is how you do this, but then you have to try and tell them, it's like, no, this is the way I want it done because it works in, and you have to be able to explain the big picture to them to be able to explain it. I think for staff, there's something that we've been quite conscious about coming through, is that once a player gets close to the end of their career, can we get them in and bring them on board and be like, hey, why don't you just shadow? Or if there's certain players who you can trust, if you don't have a coach for a certain position, if there's certain players you can trust to run a drill, oh, have you thought about doing this? Or maybe it's even letting them go coach at uni ball for a season, seeing how that feels. So they get that taste of coaching underneath them. And then when it does come time for them to hang up the boots, or if they're not getting the game time they want, then they can sort of retrain them as a position coach for that one. I think it's always unrealistic to be able to get the people that, not necessarily people you want, but I think it's unrealistic to get the high quality coaches that you feel like you need across the board. But can you get the coaches in who, I think trust is a big factor. Like, are they going to be running drills that you want them to run, or are they just going to go, okay, so we're installing 4 verts today, let's do some pass blocking? Like, can they understand what you need and how they fit into the plan? We break down every session that we have, and we break down in sort of like each tab as like QBs, this is what you're doing in this bit, this is what you're doing in this bit. The head coach sends it out, then the offensive coordinator and defense coordinator get it, and they break down. It's like, right, I need you to run this, I need you to run this, I need you to run this. Then the coaches feedback and be like, okay, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this. You go, yeah, that sounds great, do that. I think I think the most important thing is that all the coaches are singing off the same hymn sheet. They're reading off the same book. Like, you don't want those coaches who are just going to go rogue and be like, he's doing it wrong, I'll do it this way because I know it's right, and then it doesn't fit in, and then all of a sudden you've got a receiver breaking at 10 instead of 8, and then that window's not there and nothing really comes together. So I feel like as a coordinator, it's your job to ensure that all of your coaches underneath you know exactly how you want things to be done, but then also giving them the freedom to, okay, as long as you reach the same end goal, I don't really mind how long it takes you to get there, what path you take, what drills you do, just as long as you're doing it. I think one of the things that we've done really well, or this year, one of the things we were doing really well this year was we started incorporating the same drills at the start of practice for 20 minutes. So we'd have a circuit of like 6 drills. Each position would go off and do their own ones. And then for each session, we'd film them. So we'd have them on our huddle and we'd be able to go back to them and we'd be able to sort of critique the players on the core principal drills that were necessary. That way that, one, if the coach wasn't there for the session, the players could run the drill themselves and they'd know what they have to look for, why they have to do it this way. But also it gives the receivers, it gives the running backs, gives the O-line, gives the quarterbacks 6 drills that they can do and 6 drills that they can understand. Okay, so if I do go into coaching, I've already got 6 drills that I can do straight off the bat. I've got something where receivers can stop block. I've got something where receivers can work on square cut, hitch cut, pivot cut. Like I've got drills that I can work on them. So it gives them a little bit of ammunition for when they do go into coaching, or if it does get to the end of the season and University of Manchester or MMU come knocking and they want some coaches, we can, like, they're in a position to accept those ones, get the coaching under their belt, come back from a different perspective, and then when it does come to the end of their career, they're able to step in and be like, oh, do you want to come on board and help us with receivers this year, or do you want to come on board and help out? So I think every position coach we've got on our offense, apart from one who was already at Titans before I got there, was someone who's played in our system, which really helps because they can understand exactly what the system tries to do. And then any new ones who come in, we kind of give them a bit of a crash course. We show them, like, okay, this is how it's supposed to look. This is how we want to run it. When we want to do inside zone, we want our O-line to be doing this as opposed to doing this. Or, and I think with those 6 core drills that we do at the start of each practice, it really drills into it. Like, this is how it should be done. And we have it on film. So if anyone's new, we can always send it out to them and be like, look, these are the 6 drills that we do. This is how it fits into our offense. But yeah, I think recruiting coaches from outside your organization is very difficult. I've always found it to be quite difficult to try and attract people into an organization. I don't know whether that's just us or how that's been for you guys, but like, we always see that the easiest way to bring coaches in is just to reutilize older players, I guess.
Yeah, we've always had to grow our own. So in Shropshire, it's sort of, I mean, like, you know, compared to some of the city populations, it's quite sparsely populated and not always easy to get to. So we've always had to sort of rely on our own, and I think to some degree that's good as well, because you have guys come up through the system that, well, they can understand the playbook, and then culturally they're always good fits as well, because they know what your club's about. They know the guys, and they do seem to be quite successful when they step into that coaching. And as you say, I think what you need to do is just identify those guys who maybe coming to the end of their playing careers, and perhaps get them whilst they're still playing. Don't take them straight from playing to coaching, but maybe have a bit of a transition period. So maybe 2 or 3 years before they're looking at hanging up the cleats, maybe get them helping the positional coach just run a couple of drills, or just helping out, and then just let them shadow somebody. And then by the time that they do hang up the cleats properly, they're able to take on potentially a positional role or work under somebody. And I think as well, what's important is, as a coordinator, I never liked having my own positional group as an OC. I just liked being able to walk around the different positions and have input into everybody. So I think as an OC, you're not only coaching the players to be able to execute your playbook, but I think there's also an element of responsibility to coach the coaches as well. And I think I always sort of was quite a big believer in that. And if you can do that, then the guys, they'll firstly teach what you want them to teach, but they'll also sort of buy into what you're trying to achieve as well.
Anybody else? I think we're all on the same page with that one, to be honest with you. Anybody else got anything to add to that?
I mean, for me, I've been in and out of all sorts of situations, very similar to yourselves. And at the moment, or the last 10 years that I've coached, I've had a sprinkling of guys that have been around a little bit from the team that they were in, or I've had a completely new staff that's sitting there, know nothing about systems, know nothing about what we're going to do. And the thing I've found is that, you know, if you want a guy to do what you believe in and that you want, you know, for your system, you've got to you've got to teach them. You've got to break the whole thing down to them, and in bite-sized pieces so that they can draw it in and take it. 2, you've got to make them teach you what you've just taught them, so that you understand that they know your system and that they can then go on the field and they speak the same language as that you're speaking. I think the problem is with most people is that when they come into coaching, they have their own language because they've been players, and they have made this language work for them as a player, but it doesn't work as a coach. So you have to reteach them that language that is a coaching language in order to get them to teach in the manner and teach in the way that you want them to teach. And I've, you know, I'm doing that right now. I've got the offensive coaches from the Olympians, and we're breaking down the plays and we're teaching them the techniques that they need to teach, and doing it in a fashion where they get 2-3 weeks of teaching, and then they have to teach it to us, so that we know that they have taken on that understanding. So for me, that is the core. You know, if you've got something that you love and that you really, really enjoy and think works, you teach it. You teach it over a set couple of weeks or whatever, and then you come back to the beginning and you say, right, guys, teach me, because when we go on the field, I want it that way. You know, so your offensive lineman, if you're going into a zone play or a gap play, whatever your offense is, that you know that he's, you know, that offensive line coach is going to be talking about putting pressure through the floor, and not talking about make this step, that step, or going 6 inches this way or 12 inches that way. You're just talking about angles, pressures. You know, we're talking about eye levels, we're talking about hand placement, we're talking about landmarks, you know, all those things that we want as coaches to get out there. And that's what we need to break down. So for me, you know, it is difficult. It is the biggest and most difficult part of us, you know, with a staff, getting our love, our point over. But that for me is, you know, get them together, teach them what you know, what you want, because it's all about sharing that knowledge from you to them, and really care about your own knowledge, and then make them teach you and get that language.
100%.